Welcome to the IAB UK Podcast.
Hello and welcome to Futurescape, the road to 2030, a 5-part mini-series from the IAB UK Podcast, exploring what the future of digital advertising could look like in 5 years' time. I'm James Chandler, the IAB's Chief Strategy Officer, and for this series, I'll be joined by experts from across the industry to unpack the biggest shifts predicted in our Futurescape research, all from a studio setup, because apparently my actual living room didn't meet the IAB's branding guidelines. Thanks, marketing. Think of Futurescape as a strategic sat-nav, built to guide advertisers, agencies and media owners through the next evolution of digital. And if you're listening to this in your ears right now, don't forget you can also watch this episode in full over on the IAB's YouTube channel. Worth a look if you're curious about whether soft furnishings really do improve podcasts. In this episode, we're looking at how behaviours, priorities and expectations are changing, and just what all of that means for advertisers come 2030. We're going to look at how older people are redefining ageing and the impact on traditional targeting, where spending power lies in a shifting demographic landscape, and how people's expectations of businesses are also changing when it comes to issues like sustainability. To explore all of this in more detail, I'm joined by Lisa Boyles, Head of Go-to-Market and Media at giffgaff, and Kristie Naha-Biswas, Global Head of Media and Digital Marketing at Karo Healthcare, who in her previous role at the IAB was instrumental in developing Futurescape. Let's get into it. Lisa, Kristie, thank you very much. And how wonderful to have you back as well.
Thank you.
This is it, the baby. It's all kind of grown up. You talked lots about, and I'm going to use that because you wrote it and you talked about it, ageing being redefined, traditional targeting around age and around life stage going to become obsolete. At what point did we get really, really obsessed as advertisers and industry by things like age? Of all the things we know about people, why do we fixate on this kind of life stage and age thing?
I think it's an easy way to find, where your audience is and find a cohort of people for your brand's sales. And I think in our world where media was dominated by TV, it was easier to define by age because that's what you could target by. And you were never excluding people. So you could target a younger audience without excluding older people. Whereas in a digital context, if you target a younger audience, you are excluding older people and vice versa.
Yeah. Tell me about giffgaff, Lisa. Are you quite fixed and rigid about these things? I mean, your target audience in a weird way is kind of everyone, I guess. So it maybe doesn't play to you.
Yes, it is a tricky one to challenge. We go more by people's need states. So how do you use tech? How do you value tech? Are you fed up with your current provider? Do you want better value, better flexibility? So it's more around tapping into how you might need the giffgaff products. So the age thing doesn't really come into it unless we know we want to do a specific student thing around September, and then there's a little bit more of a younger leaning there, but there's more older people coming to university all the time. Is
there anything in your sort of a previous life before giffgaff where it really was about age and life stage and this very sort of traditional way of thinking about demographic targeting?
Yeah, my first job was actually in the charity sector, but that particular charity did a lot of its fundraising targeted through students. So it was like challenge events like Kilimanjaro and Everest. So we were very in they're going to be 18 to 21, 22 at a push, and these are their attitudes. It was very stereotypical and assumptive, but around about that time, the university fees were tripling. So it was harder to go to university. It's more expensive. So you have different people coming through at different points in their life. So I think that was actually a real clear marker for the younger audience of shifting that stereotypical dynamic.
Coming on to ageing, the ASA have just released a study. It showed a third of the people that were surveyed think older people are negatively stereotyped in advertising. What do you think is going on here?
Well, I think from advertisers when I was on agency side, would often exclude an older age group, or would put them in the bucket of once you were over a certain age, you were retiree, you were grey-haired, and you physically fitted into a certain bucket. But we know that people are living life in different ways to what they did, decades ago. And so My husband just had his 50th, ha ha ha, and he had the biggest 90s dance party you can imagine.
Right.
But if you took advertising probably 20 years ago, a 50-year-old was not having a dance party with 90s music. So age has changed, and I think advertisers haven't perhaps been as fast to adopt to that.
There's loads of lovely examples in Futurescape. There's the whole sort of Oasis reunion, the sort of the hype around Glastonbury tickets, the Taylor Swift thing, a whole part around concert going, and that, if you just look at that as a kind of microcosm, I mean, that's changed a lot. It's a really good example of how age doesn't really work when you look at those things.
Absolutely. You look at some of the research around, 20 years ago, people who went to festivals were overwhelmingly under 25, whereas now it's overwhelmingly over 35. And I think you mentioned Glastonbury, and you can see, I've certainly seen on my social feed, the number of over 40s who have enjoyed the weekend festive celebrations at Glastonbury. And I think that is a signal that people are no longer constrained to what was considered to be young and old attitudes and behaviours.
And is it purely a kind of a, as you said, 20 years ago it felt very close, is it purely a kind of a post-COVID thing that's going on here, sort of a reappraisal of age? I mean, what are the other things that are going on which means advertisers are thinking differently about this?
So the other thing is, we're living longer. We have, are retiring later as well. And so those factors mean, and people have had children later. And so all your life stages have shifted. And so that means that actually when people are going through these things, you sort of feel younger, longer. I still feel 25. But, I think that is naturally where then the opportunity for advertisers is, not capped at 35-year-olds. The opportunity and all of the income potential sits with a much older age group. Yeah,
I'm going to come on to spending power in a minute. Giffgaff aside, of course, any brand you think do pretty well in this space in sort of, going against the grain and just basing things on demographic? Anyone who you see, you think, that's...
Here's the thing, none really come to my mind as doing it really well. I feel like when you see ads featuring people past 40, it's all about slowing down, whereas 40 is when people are starting to have kids now, or they're finding new hobbies, they're still running marathons. You don't slow down at 40. In fact, you're probably at your busiest, really. So I think sports brands need to do it better. Yeah. Because you will just see lots of fabulously young, beautiful people in their 20s, but that's not necessarily who's got the buying power. It's
interesting. So much has been done on kind of body image and representation from that sense. Lots of plus size models for people like Nike, Lululemon, that kind of thing. But the age thing is a real sticky thing that we can't get away from. Very bizarre. Do you think we'll still be obsessing about Gen Z, or what will be Gen Alpha then in 5 years' time? There is this obsession with youth, with advertisers, that they're pretty time poor. They don't have a lot of money. Yet you look at the sort of the marketing pounds that they receive, it's intense. Yet surely the spending power is of people who are, don't have children and have flown the nest and done all that sort of stuff. So I think that's where it's like finding that balance, because it is important to engage with a younger audience, because like for some of our brands, E45 is a core product in Karo's Healthcare portfolio, and it is, really strong with a slightly older audience, and we need to work with the younger generation because it's establishing that, that same heritage with a younger, emerging consumer. But it's finding ways to target and connect with those audiences that are more around behaviours and around the right life stages or conditions in our case that will be relevant. Yeah. Any obsession with millennials and Gen Z, possibly Gen Alpha going on at giffgaff Towers? Not so much, because we are more around that behaviour and consumption. But I have to say, the Gen Z's coming up and taking the heat off us millennials and our avocado and our cancelling everything. It's great. Like, people have stopped judging us. But I wonder if the Gen X's are the ones that have the money because they got the more affordable mortgages. They've started to make a good dent in paying off. The student loans weren't as high. The kids are a bit older and starting to leave the nest. I wonder if that's where some of the spending power is. Yeah, and they're probably still in the world of work. Exactly, they're not on the pensions. Precisely, there's a wonderful bit in Futurescape where you sort of see these 5 generations having to figure out how to work together. The boomers are kind of still there. You've got Gen Alpha coming through. I mean, already it feels difficult trying to navigate. Do we work from home? Do we go to the office? Values, culture, all that sort of stuff. So that's definitely going to get more complicated. There's a bunch of contradictions going on as well, particularly when it comes to Gen Z and millennials. They're very focused on the environment. They also love things like fast fashion. They crave that human connection, but they spend a lot, inordinate amount of time online. How do you start to navigate some of these juxtapositions?
So I think this is where it's like not falling down the trap of a stereotype of, young people are environmentally the most environmentally focused. It's not actually. When you look at, the Just Oil activists, a lot of them were older retirees. And so if focusing on people who are environmentally and sustainability minded is important to your business and is where your growth audience is going to come from, then find that as your core way of targeting, rather than saying, well, it's millennial, or it's Gen Z and millennials because they are focused on environmental sustainability.
Yeah.
And that contradiction is probably there because they, as a generation, may be more conscious of the issue we're facing, but maybe tight on the wallet or time poor and just need something quick. So there is that, the number one purchasing factors isn't always sustainability. Sometimes cost is a factor.
Yeah.
And unless you go really secondhand, and then it's hard to find definitely what you want.
Yeah.
You do have to sort of make those compromises.
The most extreme example with Gen Z is the fact that then you have a huge cohort of them who live at home and then are actually more cash rich because they don't pay for rent. And so then, on the other extreme, they're still able to buy designer handbags along with their Shein haul. Yes. So you've got sort of there's so many extremes. That's why I think, stereotypes are just no longer fit for purpose. If ever they were.
This rich wardrobe tapestry of sort of Chanel bags and Shein clothes. Very
but
nice.
then get sold on Vinted again after.
Yes, exactly.
Which is seeing a huge resurgence as well, probably for that very reason. I guess it's not just behaviours that expectations are as well. Consumers are putting the emphasis on businesses to behave in a sustainable way, to encourage healthy tech habits, that kind of stuff. How do you balance the commercial bit, the growing bit, with doing the right thing that is expected of you now?
I think there's two ways to come at it. There's the basics behind how your business operates. Is it renewable energy that powers your office, and what materials are you using to create your product? That is all should be the bread and butter for a business, that the products you're selling are sustainably thought through and how you dispose of them after. But I think what a lot of people kind of forget is we as marketers, even if the product is made as responsibly as we can, we're still flogging it. And we're encouraging you to get this latest thing. This new phone has this tiny change, get a new one. This clothing fashion has just changed slightly, get some more clothes. We are still doing that as a whole international marketing industry, and I think we need to do better at, no, you get something when you need it, and then get a really good quality thing that will last. And then here's what you do with the old thing to recycle it or dispose of it or reuse it in a different way.
Does it play through for you guys as well? There's obviously kind of, there's production, there's all that stuff that goes on in the making of it. Does it play through into media as well in terms of the way that you guys behave?
Yeah, 100%. We're very, very proud of how we show up with sustainable advertising. So we've got some very clear principles in all of our planning. Less is more. So how do we reduce our frequency? It's basically to have more impactful placements. And by having less frequency, but still the same amount of impact, you're actually producing less emissions. And we're very conscious about our partner selection as well. So if we think a partner is very, very responsible, we try to include them on the plan more, and then we'll challenge the ones that aren't. And we've got a whole host of tactics that come through in our responsible marketing manifesto, but we're very passionate in this space and quite vocal.
That's amazing. So if you want to work with giffgaff, you have to kind of walk the walk.
Yes, because we will challenge you. We'll be like, yeah, let's meet up, but we're going to grill you intensely about your latest impact report.
And your agency are bought into that as well?
Fully, and we're so lucky to have them. MD, they ring the bell for us, they champion it, but they're also willing to let us go and have those convos direct. It's a very collaborative relationship, and it's had a lot of impact.
Very nice. Sort of consumer behaviour or cultural shift that you think advertisers maybe aren't thinking about now, but you think should be thinking about as we head towards 2030?
Consumer behaviour. I think this, the way people will use AI in their researching for products and their discovery of products and solutions. will be increasingly prominent. And I think we can see it already today, certainly. For our products and categories, we're very research heavy as a category, how people look for healthcare solutions. And so I think the behaviour of consumers to use AI platforms like ChatGPT to help with their decision making will be really critical, and not one that you can wait until 2030 on.
Yeah. And again, to go back to Futurescape, there's a whole part there around brand discovery and AI. And actually, if you're not doing that brand building, when the AIs are pulling in all the stuff and training it, if you're kind of not there, you're just not going to show up.
And then I think the other cultural point would be, we've seen this huge shift to experiences and people wanting these really immersive experiences. And I think that will continue to grow as, so much of social media is dominant in people's lives, as there'll still be that crave for that experience.
Very nice. What about you, Lisa?
You touched on social media then, it made me think straight away about, I don't know how I say the youth of today, like I'm an old lady, the younger Gen Zs and the older Gen As are using it, because I met with my cousin last week, and he's about 18 and he deleted WhatsApp. I'm like, how do you talk to people? So I think it's definitely going to be a big shift. Social media is not going anywhere, but it will definitely be a big shift in how they're using it. And I'm only in my early 30s, and even I can't keep up.
Yeah.
Deleted WhatsApp.
I know. How do you live?
I think they go back to, it's like retro text messaging.
Yeah, retro text or Snap messages, which makes me laugh because that came about when I was at uni.
Or maybe Bebo Messenger or something. MySpace Messenger is going to make it.
MySpace will resurrect
You heard
itself.
it here first. Futurescape is actually about reverting to
Return of the MSN nudge.
Yeah, I like that. Bit of Yahoo pool on the go as well. Oh, thank you for coming for our trip down memory lane. Isn't that wonderful? I have to ask you, because I've got you, Kristie. I mean, there's 11 big areas of Futurescape. There were probably more that we didn't include. What was the most sort of exciting, enjoyable one as you sort of delved into? I mean, you went and talked to a whole bunch of people for this, but what stood out for you as the thing that excited you or you felt was just really profound?
I think, this one was around the audience and some of those behavioural shifts, and, was certainly really interesting. I think when looking at the evolution of retail media, that was really exciting, and thinking about where that's going to go, and how exciting it is for advertisers in terms of how you can now make all your media much more accountable and outcome focused. I think that one was really, as one to dive into.
There would have been a bunch of stuff that you went into it as well, where you go and talk to people and it probably reaffirms what you thought. Was there anything that surprised you? I mean, things like wearables maybe, and maybe AR, stuff that we've been expecting to take off for so long, finally feels like, when you read Futurescape, like we're going to be there.
Yeah, I think that was something that came through around the emergence of more VR and AR and wearables. We're all wearing one today. I think that is increasingly going to become more dominant. It's more a case of the opportunities that may come with this, which are quite exciting around the interactivity for advertisers, and actually even thinking about that connection to retail media and the proximity advertising. I think the thing that will hold it back is consumer adoption and the accessibility of some of these products. Lisa mentioned you need a need for a product, and I think that's it. It's like, what's the need? So making sure that there is that fit, but it's quite exciting opportunities, I think, on the horizon.
Yes, so often that it's not the tech we're waiting for, it's the sort of the human behaviour, which takes a lot longer. That was awesome. We could have done lots more. Lisa, Kristie, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for having us.
Lisa Boyles and Kristie Naha-Biswas there, both sharing their takes on how changing societal norms are likely to reshape advertising by 2030, and what exactly brands can do now to stay relevant. From cash-rich Gen Zers to festival-loving 40-somethings, today's audiences don't fit into neat boxes. And as we heard in this conversation, that means traditional stereotypes just aren't fit for purpose anymore. If brands want to stay relevant, they need to evolve with the people they're trying to reach. In the next episode in this series, we'll be tackling retail media, asking whether the classic marketing funnel can or should survive the next 5 years, and what it will take for retail media to deliver both long-term brand building and short-term sales impact. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next time.
IAB UK, building a better future for digital advertising for the benefit of everyone.